I have a little message for my divine feminines on twin flame journey because I've heard in the past, not just months, but overall, I've heard some, opinions online that for as long as you're seeking information, you're not in inner union. For as long as a divine feminine, you shouldn't be craving information and content about twin flames. There's so much nonsense. There's so much misinformation and so on and so forth. And as much as it's true that there is so much nonsense, 90% of information about twin flames is false, is misleading, is incomplete. And I spoke about this a lot on my channel recently, explaining to you guys that one of the reasons is a surface level spirituality, people completely not understanding that spirituality is about deep self work, shadow work, improvement. It's not just burning sage and karma and soul connections. The second reason is that many divine feminists on a journey, they don't understand that when we say you have to be authentic, you have to get out there, you have to find your path, find your mission, make yourself seen, it doesn't mean you're supposed to talk about twin flames, right? Only fraction of us, the divine feminines on a journey who awaken with a mission to help humanity to shift towards new earth, because we all have our own mission, only fraction of us will actually meant to support other feminines on this journey, right? It's part of my mission, but most of divine feminines in the beginning of this journey that I'm watching, it's not part of their mission. It's something that they start with because they're in this journey, they're learning, right? So they crave to talk about this, but it's coming from a place of my own experience and my own downloads, not universal knowledge that I'm receiving from Father Universe, from the void, because it's linked to my mission, right? And we've discussed this many times. But what I want to say today is, as much as it's true that, for as long as you have this urgency and you're seeking information, you're wanting information, it means that you're not yet there. But let's just not forget that the journey is long. So we cannot just, go ahead and say to poor divine feminists on a journey, stop seeking for information about this journey, because how are you supposed to know how to navigate the journey in the beginning? I always say this to you guys. In the beginning, you're lost and you're confused. You're going for awakening. I always say this, you need a mentor. You need someone who will guide you. You need one of those divine feminines who are meant to guide other feminists on this journey. And the moment will come that all the answers that you seek will be found within. You will receive downloads about your journey. You will know certain things. You will no longer need guidance of a reader, shaman, shadow worker when it comes to the journey. You still, I always say this, we should all, and I always say this, we should all continue to work with a healer as a healers, because as healers, we have to take care of our own energy, right? But that relationship with your mentor will change. It will no longer be, holding your hand, holding space for you on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, but you will be able to go to the healer once a year, right? But this process is long. It can be years. So saying to people, it's a bad thing when you look for information externally, I don't believe it's a fully good advice. My personal belief and my advice is, and I've done so much content about this. You can go to my YouTube because the content is well organized in there. There's a playlist about twin flames, and there's specifically, I think it was like a month or month plus ago, I've done a channeled message to help you to figure out who you should be listening to, because there's so much nonsense. It creates chaos, it creates confusion, not a good kind of chaos. So there's only few content creators that actually know what they talk about, right? And as long as you are not in a place of inner union and truth, which means I know who I am, I know that this person is my person, I know that we will once be reunited, because activated twins, it's always on your highest timeline to be with your counterpart. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to focus on me, because I know me. I know my path. I know what I come here to do. I have become the teacher. The student becomes the teacher. You reach your inner union and you start to act on your mission. And all the answers in relation to your own path, your own journey, are then found within. But until that moment, that for some it's going to be 2 years, for some it's going to be 6 years, for some it's going to be more, you need a good mentor, right? Again, once you're there, I say, and I say this all the time, you should still work with a healer. I wouldn't trust a healer that doesn't work with a healer, okay? I myself have a beautiful shaman. Couple times a year, I go on session with her. Once a year, I go to visit her in person. We do magical work together. And there's always something that a perspective of another person that holds place for you, that cleanses you energetically. To me, it's just a respect. I go to her out of respect to all people that I heal. And she herself has her own healer. And the list goes on, right? So the chain goes on. So you still, even when you're already in a place of peace, in a place of inner union, in a place of mission, you can still have that healer, right? But saying to divine feminines, don't watch any content on twin flames, I don't think it's a good advice, in all due respect. And I don't say it just because I create content on twin flames, because it's just part of my mission. I on a generic level, I work with soul relationships. I work with alignment. I work with love, loving yourself, right? The embodying the frequency of love, starting from loving yourself. That's my mission. But I cannot imagine going through this journey, when I started this journey, without my shadow worker, without mentor, without her content, because this journey is so hard. This journey is so confusing. And yes, all the answers can be found within, but only when you are in a place of light. For as long as you're bound by shadows, fears, doubts, wounds, traumas, until you remove these things, you will not be able to reach within and trust yourself. And to remove these things, I cannot imagine how can you do this effectively, expeditiously, without a support of another healer. And I always say this, refusing to get help puts a stigma on help. So no good healer, okay, no good healer who puts stigma on help, saying, I don't need help, is able to give that help. Do you know what I mean? Because it's sort of a vicious cycle. If you put stigma on help and you're ashamed to say, I love my yearly sessions with my shaman. I get so excited. One, it's upcoming because it's always in August for me. I go and I visit her and it's magic. The shamanic journey she takes me on, it's magic. She holds space for me, so every year I can grow and expand, right? So saying, to me, it's a little bit arrogance to say, I am so good that I need no help ever from no one, no education, no expansion, no growth, no mentor. And then you want to give it to others. Something is off. Maybe it's a healer wound. Maybe you're still a little bit in a place of ego. But again, I think that we should rewrite this advice. Stop saying to people that they should not look for information and content on Twin Flame, because if they're not yet in inner union, how else they're going to know? They cannot reach the information within, right? This comes in a place when we're in inner union, when we're at peace, when the journey is done, right? But until that moment, which can be years, you need guidance, you need information, and it's okay to ask for it. It's okay to look for it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you really need to use your discernment and ask yourself, is this person the right person that I'm asking this information to? Like I said, unfortunately, 90% of information about twin flames, if not more, is misinformation. Either charlatans who know nothing about spirituality at all, people who perhaps maybe even are spiritual but don't know about the journey. They haven't been on a journey. They completely confuse it with karmic connections. Many people refuse to accept that it's something that exists. They think it's same as karmic connection, which is nonsense. And there's gonna be a section of divine feminines who are in the beginning of the journey and they haven't discovered their purpose yet. So all they talk about is the twin flame journey because that's all they think about, because they are still on a journey. Do you know what I mean? And that's dangerous because you can confuse downloads that are, only for you, for your journey, and you can spread it as a message through also your own triggers and your fears and insecurities. It's a completely different thing when you're meant to work with twins. And don't forget that, I always say this, there's so few of us true twins who are activated twins who are meant to come into union. Not all do, because it's a hard journey. It's a hard journey. And if you get into that loop of fear of not working on yourself properly, not going towards the right direction, it can be a lifetime and you're not going to reach that point. But those of us who are activated twins, we're always meant to come into union. And the journey is incredibly hard and long, and it's only easier if you find yourself a proper person who is meant to guide you and who is meant to lead you. So don't feel ashamed if you hear this information. Don't feel ashamed that you look for information or that you look for content. It's only natural. It's so easy to say all the answers can be found within. All the answers can be found within for all human beings. Yet, we need mentors, experts, teachers, doctors, people who are, whose mission is linked towards a specific, yes, we are all guides and oracles, but it's so easy to say, go ahead and say that to all people. To all people on this planet, all the answers are within. All the answers are within, truly, about everything. But until you get there, how do you get there? How the hell do you get there? Right? So there's this amazing class, meditation, I never know how to call these, that Brian Scott does. I always recommend Brian Scott. He talks about this, that when we enter a specific journey, we always start from being a student, and we find yourself a teacher because it's only natural. And then we become that teacher. If we refuse to be the student, how can we ever be a teacher? A teacher to whom? If we're shaming being a student. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. So don't be ashamed to be a newbie, to be a learner, to be a student. Find yourself a mentor, and that mentor will one day get you to a place where you yourself will become a teacher. But still, there are going to be different areas of life. We cannot all know it all. This is why I always say our human brain is incapable of holding all the information that we have access to in a void. That's why discovering our path gives us the ability to reach to the void for the information that is relevant for our path. That's why I always say to you guys, your downloads will be relevant to your path. So you can be the teacher for spiritual awakening, for yoga, for twin flames, for awakening, for alignment, for finding your path, for connecting to your womb, whatever your passion is. When it comes to art and all the things, all the jobs you can think of, that's going to be your mission. And if you also walk the path of spirituality and you're an open channel, you will receive downloads specifically for that mission. But if you want to know more about something else, you will have to go to another teacher. We don't have access to all. Our human brain would not be able to hold to it. So I always say this to you guys, as channels, we have two sort of a channels. One that is linked to our mission, so we can help others that need information on that specific thing. And the other is linked specifically to our journey. So for your journey, for yourself, yes, it's true, you will know it all. But sometimes we have the need to expand. And like I said, before we get there, it's a long path. So again, I don't like when women shame other women, right? I don't like when women who are lost, or people who are lost and look for information, seek for information, they need help, they being met with a response. You shouldn't be asking for these things. You shouldn't be looking for this information. You should find it within. But how do I find it within? That's not love. That's not compassion. That's not divine feminine energy. That's a bit of a triggered energy when people say that. But no judgment. We all have bad days. I hope this will find whoever it needs to find. If you really feel that you need information, look for information. Just really ask yourself, where am I looking this information for? And don't be afraid to admit, I yet don't know it all. I yet am not fully tapped into my inner guru. I need help. I need guidance. That is the only way you will ever get there. I love you so incredibly much. If you have questions, let me know. No issue here. I am here for you. It's part of my mission. And I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.